What's up, guys? This is Jake, and welcome to episode number 11 of the Warcry Games podcast. Joining me today, we got Brandon. What's up, dude?
Yo, what up?
Then John, what is going on? Looking spiffy, liking it?
I'm in my Sunday best and ready to go down as gentlemen.
There you go. So professional for
Nobody
this podcast.
gets that reference.
I don't.
Maybe you do get the reference.
Well, I'm sorry, man.
That's a Titanic reference, no? Well, actually,
Oh,
Dude, I
okay,
haven't seen
okay,
Titanic
okay.
in so long. That's like
It's been a
deep
minute.
cut.
and I was referring to the historically accurate movie, by the way,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
not the
Very,
actual.
very
event.
accurate.
Probably get
very
downvoted for
accurate.
that. Okay. Anyways,
But starting things off, we're going to talk about the games we've been playing this week. Then we're going to move on to the best bit. We're going to go over the best pixel art in a game. After that, we're going to talk pro versions, which is essentially just a discussion around the pro versions of consoles. Then we're going to move into a segment called Current Gen Woes, where we're going to discuss like disappointing features about the current gen and what we want to see moving forward into the next generation this holiday. Lastly, we're going to move into the war cry, where we're going to introduce a topic that's designed to spark debate between us. Links to the talking points are going to be in the description below. Let's start things off with what games we've been playing. And John, what have you been playing this week, dude? I know one.
Now I remember last week. Yeah, I remember last week. I said I wasn't playing much. I ended up playing a lot. So I won't,
Did you see the thumbnails, dude?
This time.
All the way across your face?
It's like all across. Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, this week has been like a VR week. So I played and finished Vader Immortal Episode 2.
Yes. How'd you like it?
Very nice. It was good. It was awesome. I like the proto lightsaber that you get in that episode. It's annoying that it takes like a no, they call it like a they call it something else. Like it
Ancient looking thing.
They called it
A
it
light
sounded
knife.
like it was like a yeah. It was like a laser sword or something like that. So it's weird because there's like a delay when you activate your lightsaber as opposed to like the quick boom,
Yeah.
you know, with the regular lightsaber.
It starts sparking.
This is definitely like, it's like, it was like the Millennium Falcon of lightsabers because I would try to activate the lightsaber, like, activate, damn it, there's shit coming my way.
Mid-combat.
So,
Yikes.
yeah. Well, I mean, it was force focused, so it's pretty satisfying to do like the force pulling and pushing and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it's short again, so can't wait for episode 3, which is already out, which I just have to get to.
It's even
Can't wait
shorter,
for something
dude.
that you already have.
Yeah.
I think it's the shortest.
So
of the
there's
three.
that. Is it really? Okay. That
How
would
much
explain
are
it.
things?
So,
Is it like $5 per
like
episode?
10
$10.
bucks.
Per episode?
$10.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is a $10 bite-sized chunk.
Let's go into the war cry
I'm
later. That's
that'd be
$10 for 30 to 45 minutes of
Yeah.
gameplay per
Yeah,
one.
that's interesting.
Well, I mean,
VR
the
tax,
more I
dude.
play this, the more that like I wish it was like an 80-hour adventure. Not unlike like Jedi Fallen Order, but completely in VR.
VR, damn.
So
Mhm.
if they made something like that, but completely, like a full $60 adventure, day one purchase.
Damn.
For sure. So there's that. I played a nice game called Pistol Whip. Forgot the name of the studio.
Never even heard of it.
Blanking on it. But it's you play as this like, again, it's with guns. You can play guns akimbo, or you can play just, with one gun. You're like a John Wick style, Matrix-esque like
Yes.
badass, and
Nice.
you're automatically scrolling down a corridor, trying to shoot the bad guys that get into your line of fire or your sight. But there's like a heavy thumping club style track playing in the
Damn.
background.
So is it like an
And so-
on-rail shooter?
It's basically an on-rail shooter,
Yeah.
only like, you're in VR and like you're dodging
shit.
bullets and you're dodging obstacles. Jake, highly recommend it.
Yeah?
I mean, like,
Whoa.
yes.
How much?
Yes, it is amazing. It was like $25,
$20?
$30. I forgot the exact price, but
Hmm.
it is crazy. And on top of that, too, it might just be my imagination, but I think you get more points if you, like, shoot people to the beat of the music going on in the background.
Yo, yeah, there we go.
So, You
rhythm
like
game.
brr, brr, pop, pop, brr, 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 pop, pop.
It's just your imagination.
So,
You're just doing that.
He's
it could
just in
be,
the zone,
but like,
dude. He's just in the zone.
But I mean, it's super hyper stylized. It's like a mix. It has a super hot kind of vibe to it. So
Yeah,
it's not
that's what it
super
reminded me of when
detailed,
you
but
said
like
that.
there's a lot of colors to it and everything. And there's different there's not levels like as in super hot or traditional shooting games. There's tracks, not unlike Audica, which I'm getting to a bit, or Beat Saber. You choose a song, which is actual by a real artist, and then that song would play in the background, and you're shooting bad guys as this song is playing.
That's pretty cool.
Damn, dude.
Highly
That's cool.
recommended. I think it's one of the like the better VR games. It's up there with Beat Saber and all that.
Whoa.
And so, yeah. And so the last game that is also in that like trifecta of games I'm really loving on VR is Audica, which just came out.
Like my 3:30 a.m.
Again,
text.
it's another. Yeah, but I mean, you know what? I was expecting you to text me at that time anyway, since Mr. Jake is now a father.
Yeah.
So again, this is by Harmonix, the same folks that made
Oh yeah.
Rock Band and all those rhythm games. But this time, instead of sabers, like as you would with Beat Saber, you're shooting little discs with guns, and there's just all sorts of little mechanics, like sub mechanics, like holding the discs down and whatnot. It's a different vibe from Pistol Whip, but because you're not shooting bad guys per se, you're just shooting things. But I mean, it's for a music genre game, it is great. It's like I said, I don't want to rip off another person's review, but basically, I liked what he said so much. It's their Han Solo to Beat Saber's Luke Skywalker.
Whoa.
It is awesome. It is great. Like I said, it's along the same caliber as Pistol Whip, along the same caliber as Beat Saber. Jake, please pick this up today.
Yeah.
The tracks are awesome. The track packs are they're okay, but they're not great. But the bass tracks there, there's tracks by Deadmau5.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I was about to ask. So they're
all that good
they're
stuff.
licensed. They're not just like built in house
They're
like Beat Saber?
licensed tracks. I mean, because it's got the power of Harmonix behind them.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
they have the funding to license that stuff.
Dude, Audica is the shit.
I've seen some gameplay of
So-
it, like shooting this stream of looks like energy or something at these notes or
Yeah,
something that's
yeah.
floating in the sky.
Yeah.
Like I kind of get
It's
it.
super what's the word? Like it's super immersive, but what's weird is like every game has its own way of immersing you in the music. Beat Saber, it's all about the swinging, right? So like there's an imaginary point in which like you time your beat to your saber. Audica, it's all about that gun, that trigger pull. I don't know, it's super satisfying. And then Pistol Whip is kind of like a mix of the two, but it adds a little bit of action to it. So, anyways, I could talk about this all day. So we're gonna have a very full podcast if I don't shut up.
Dude.
But yes,
Damn,
those
dude.
those
Played
two
some
games.
good games.
Yeah, and all
Dude,
VR focused too,
it
like
is-
heavy VR focus.
Oh, I mean, like I played, I
You're
played
cracked.
my share of Call of Duty
Yeah,
and whatnot.
Death Stranding, Call of Duty, yeah.
So, Death Stranding, Call of Duty and whatnot. But I mean, there's nothing new to report about those things.
Reminds me, like when we went to Odaiba a couple weeks ago, and they had a Beat Saber machine set up, and
Oh shit.
so
Oh, Jake
Jake
rocked
schooled everyone,
the
I'm
house.
sure, dude.
yeah, man,
Oh yeah, yeah.
I showed up.
I was like struggling expert. I'm like, oh Jake.
Let me just
help
boot
me,
up Expert
Jake."
Plus here.
Jake's a monster, dude.
They did a what do you call Ali? A girl that we went with as well. She sent a message to the group chat. It was like John's like, I gotta go. Take over for me. The message showed Family Guy, Peter from Family Guy, like struggling with the Dance Dance Revolution. He gets away. Bill Clinton takes over and he just like rocks it. And she's like, this is what I
This
felt
is
like.
Jake. Yeah.
Watch the screen, not your feet.
Bill, shut up. I got it.
Number 32.
Oh, no. A pizza's ready.
Tag out, man, tag out. I'm a Barbie girl in a Barbie world, wrapped in plastic. It's fantastic. Come on, Barbie, let's go party. Yeah.
That makes sense. Sounds about right.
But yeah, man.
So-
What about you, Brandon? What do you bring to the table for games this week? Well, just one, or
All
you
right.
got more than Red
No,
Dead?
I definitely got more than one this week. So I finished Red Dead right after the last podcast. I've talked at length about that one. The only one I'll say I would give it a 10 out of 10. That is an incredible game now that's all wrapped up.
High praise.
Yeah. So that is all done. And then I dove right into Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
Yeah.
I know you've been teasing.
Yeah.
So I
Single
beat
player?
the campaign.
Nice.
Yep, I beat the campaign. So let's talk about the campaign for a little bit.
Yeah.
I have played a lot of Call of Duty campaigns, and I was playing the first couple levels, and I was like, this is Call of Duty. Like, it's the same kind of thing. You're going in, you're shooting people. And, like, maybe it felt kind of like a little bit more tactical, not as many explosions. But there's definitely some missions in there that are very, very dark and very, very intense.
Yeah.
And I was talking with another buddy who's, like, a huge COD fan. And I just kept saying, like, oh, it's pretty standard. And then as soon as I had those missions, I was like, well, okay, I totally see that this is a little bit more intense than what I was expecting and what I've played in previous Call of Duty games. I definitely think the Kareem missions are highlights of that game. When you're like going back in time and like playing her older, or when she was younger, like as a kid, or like when she gets captured.
Or Farah.
And it's wasn't that her name? Karim? What did I call her?
I think it's Farah. I forgot her brother's name. It might be that.
I thought it was like Kareem or something. Anyway, her missions were really intense, and it was one of those things where I was like, wow, this game is. And I also thought London was like a very intense scenario, just because I think the way that they animate the characters and the way that they set up the set pieces, essentially, it's really not pro war. It really makes you think like, hey, this is just like not a great thing that's happening, and you have to be on the front lines, like trying to respond to these crises. And I think they really leaned heavily into like very relevant, realistic scenarios. You know, the London terrorist attacks, like that. They are playing on all of that. And the wars in the Middle East, they are playing on all of that. And this theme of, you know, children being in war, children and families being in war, and what that does to their psyche, and that throughout the story was pretty deep and a lot more than I was expecting.
You played all of Fair, right?
Yeah, I played the entire campaign. One thing that I think is really interesting, so I went from the campaign and then actually played both Spec Ops and multiplayer with another buddy from work. Great news is a crossplay, so you can play with basically anybody. And of course, as soon as we get into multiplayer, there's like 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds just on voice chat, just like being ridiculous. And it was funny because I sat back and I was like, all right, 12-year-olds are going to play Call of Duty, like no surprise. But the more I thought about it, I was like, that campaign is way too intense for a 10-year-old to like really be playing. Like there's some of like, especially with the Clear House mission, like a lot of the stuff that happens in that mission. And again, like the flashback episodes is just, that is an intense subject matter that I feel like an 8 or 10-year-old is not emotionally equipped to handle. So
or the interrogation scene. Like
all that stuff, all the interrogation, the waterboarding, like Jesus, like it. And now part of me could be like, okay, there's still like video gamey elements of it. Definitely the last mission was very Call of Duty, where it's like, all right, we're going in, guns blazing, kill the bad guy, and like the sacrifice of the character is like, okay, like we're trying to make this more of like a full circle and a full picture here. But some of those missions, man, and especially the mission where you have to interrogate the butcher.
That's the one I was talking about. That's
where you have to like put his wife and his kid at gun. Spoilers. I spoiled a lot of it already, but his wife and his kid at gunpoint. I'm like, what the hell is going on? This is not something that like 8-year-olds should be playing. This is really intense. Yeah.
Well,
what were you gonna say?
I think sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
So that Clear House mission, like to your point there. You know, there's parts where the civilians that you're not supposed to shoot pick up rifles, right? If I'm not correct, like
so they hide under the bed and they grab rifles from around the corner. Like, it is intense.
I mean,
man.
Yeah, like I mean, it's programming your kids. Normally there's like a clear oh, these are the bad guys, these are the good guys.
Right.
Yeah. Now the kids are going to be like, well, now let's not trust anybody.
Yeah, and like part of me is also like, all right, well maybe it's good for kids to see like war is not good, and like what happens in war is terrible and gruesome and all of these different aspects. But then you go into multiplayer and it's just like, let's just like kill everyone like normal Call of Duty. So it's this weird. And I give, it was Infinity Ward, right? I think that developed this one.
Yeah.
I give them a lot of credit for kind of towing the line between those two. I think they added a lot of weight to the single player campaign while keeping the multiplayer like classic fun Call of Duty multiplayer. And as I've been playing the multiplayer, I'm actually very impressed with the variety of modes. They brought in modes from other first-person shooters, or originated in other first-person shooters.
Yeah.
So Gun Game originated in Counter-Strike. Infection, as far as I know, originated
Halo,
in
right?
Halo. Yeah, so other modes that people just love from first-person shooters.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I'll shout out on the multiplayer side of things, the night vision mode is really interesting. The fact that they added that as a option in multiplayer.
Yeah.
And I realized, I don't know if this is just another thing. I love playing on hardcore versus normal, because I think hardcore, like without the map, like makes the game
No HUD.
more fun. Yeah, no HUD. I hate the HUD. I love just like very, very realistic scenario. And I don't know if it's just because I was playing on hardcore, but when I was playing night missions, you wouldn't even get that that like white X when you actually hit somebody.
Yeah, you don't know.
I'm not even sure. Say it again.
There's no hit markers.
Yeah, no hit markers. Exactly. Yeah. So I was like, wow, like this is really like you're in there. You don't even know if you're like hitting them. There's not that feedback. So I love that. We talked about it last week. That level of realism. You really feel like you're there. Night mode for me was like, oh shit, like this is kind of what it would feel like if I was in this, search and destroy scenario where I have to like defuse a terrorist bomb. Obviously, there's still a level of video gameness involved, but I felt like they did a really good job of adding that extra layer. And the fact that you got to tilt your gun for night vision mode, you can't actually look through the scope, right? Like,
you can see the lasers too, right? Like if an enemy's like pointing their laser down, like you can see that.
Yeah.
And
which is again realistic, right? Like if you see a red dot scope, like you would see a red dot.
See why this is John and my crack.
Yeah.
Hardcore, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's intense, dude.
I don't know about you, but you froze on mine, John. You're kind of okay. You're good. You're back. You're back.
Yeah. John's internet's crap.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't know what my Wi-Fi or my internet is doing. So.
Dude, we all have to play together. We all have the game. It's cross-play.
Yeah.
Like we have to find time to play together.
Dude. Anytime. Now I think I'm like level 17 or 18 in multiplayer.
Scrub.
I've been really enjoying the MP5. I think the submachine guns are like a sweet balance where it's like quick fire rate, but also if you're good enough, you can actually get some long distance shots on those if you're not like spraying and praying. So I've found that kind of a sweet spot. And then, like I said, I did some of the Spec Ops missions with my buddy. We kept trying to do the one that was like defuse the bombs to the 3 different places. And then I don't know if you guys have done any of the Spec Ops co-op stuff. But I like that stuff. I like more like story-driven content when you're playing it with friends. And so I think the fact that that's there as an option is always a draw for me. So
Could you
far,
use your loadouts from multiplayer and Spec Ops, or is that like a completely separate, encapsulated thing?
I know you get you level up equipment in Spec Ops that carries over to multiplayer. I do know that. So if you are you level 17?
Maybe it's the other way around too. Hopefully.
Yeah. I think it is like the overlap where you level up multiplayer, you level up your same character in Spec Ops. I don't know about loadouts. When the one that we were playing, we started off in an area that had like a bunch of different weapons we could pick up. It's like, hey, do you want to get the rocket launcher? Do you want to get the SCAR? Do you want to get this other thing? So I don't know if you could actually specifically deck out one of those guns. Maybe in some of them you can. But it was definitely fun. And again, the crossplay is huge. We played with my buddy, his friends from California, like all these different people. I have a buddy in Florida I can play with on Xbox, on PlayStation.
Got a couple in Japan too.
Yeah, I know. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm down now. Now that I'm like gotten into it, anytime you guys want to hop on, like I'm very familiar with the. And what I actually really loved, I didn't realize this going into it, the throwback maps. So when it loaded up Crash from the original Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare,
what a good feel.
I was like, yes, dude, this is my favorite map in COD 4. Like, it was just so much fun. So I'm really happy to see that again.
There was that other one too, the office building, not Shipment.
Oh, I know.
Well, Shipment was another one.
Shipment's
there too,
but
yeah.
So, yeah.
There's a little bit of weirdness with some of the older maps, like Vacant. That's the one. With Vacant in particular, I think one of the COD YouTubers touched on this, either Exclusive Ace or Drifter, but they were talking about how like they completely randomized the spawn points in the old Call of Duties. You would pretty much, in general, spawn on one side of the map, and then the enemies would spawn on the other side of the map.
Yeah.
But they kind of screwed up the spawn points on Vacant, where like everybody's just still spawning at random points. So like the choke points and whatnot that were built the choke points that were built into the original Vacant map no longer apply because everybody's just spawning everywhere.
Ooh.
But anyways, sorry,
Yikes.
Real conversation there.
Yikes. So that was Call of Duty. I played a couple other games. I picked up the DLC for Smash Brothers. I know we talked about it before. So this is Byleth. Played through his classic mode, played through all the events and spirit battles that got released for DLC. I mean, I'll be honest, he's a fun character. Like I said, I played as palette swapped Edelgard, so I never really played as Byleth. But I like some of his moves. He's definitely very slow, so they emphasized that in his announcement video. But definitely really fun, the fact that he has so many different weapons. I think that's something that was sorely missing from some of the other Fire Emblem characters, because you think of a game like Fire Emblem and there are so many different class units, right? And Robin was really the first Smash Brothers character to get outside of the sword lords and just sword-wielding anime-inspired characters. Robin at least had some magic, so it was like, okay, they're adding a magic user from Fire Emblem. That's one other thing. But here's all these other weapons like bows, axes, lances that they're untapped, and no one else has a lance really in Smash Brothers. So the fact that Byleth has sword whip thing, which is a really unique weapon, kind of like reminds me of like Ivy from Soul Calibur.
Yeah, I was gonna say Ivy from Soul Calibur.
Yeah, Soul Calibur. And then you got the bow, the axe, the lance, and it's cool because every direction is a different move. So like your down smash and your down air and your down tilt are all axe, right? And then all of your side moves are like the spear. And so they do a really good job of making him feel like he's got a unique moveset. He's not just like a carbon copy of the other Fire Emblem characters. And then the other game I played, I always check into Guild Wars 2 whenever they drop free content. I love what they do. They have this content patch that they call like the Living Story, and so every like 2 to 3 months they'll just drop a brand new map, new story missions, new like world abilities and stuff like that. I love just hopping in there. And for those who don't know, Guild Wars 2, it's free to play, and then you buy the expansions, and then you just kind of play. You don't have to pay for a subscription. So I've kept up with it since the original Guild Wars. Huge fan, and so it's just fun kind of just hopping back in, playing 3-4 hours of the new story content. And then lastly, I'm not going to talk too much about it because I literally just played an hour before we hopped on, but I did start up Bloodstained Ritual of the Night.
Yeah.
Which I'm excited to check out. It's got a lot of good buzz. I feel like this is one of the few examples of a Kickstarter done right.
Which version did you pick up, Brandon?
So the reason I've only just recently started it was because I was a Kickstarter backer and I got the Switch version. And for those who don't know, the Switch version at launch was notoriously plagued by slowdown and bugs and all these things.
It was bad.
So at the time, when did it launch? Like last summer? Like September maybe. So I got it. It was like I literally got it in like August or something, and I was like, I have too many games to play. Is this buggy? They say they're gonna patch it. I'm just gonna wait. So I've literally waited months just playing other games, and it is now on version 1.04, which because I was a Kickstarter backer, I like get the updates. It's like, here's the latest patch notes, here's the stuff. And 1.04, they've been like, we are now at parity Switch versus the other consoles. And I was like, cool, okay, so now I can play, right? So I'm actually like really happy that I waited. The flip side is like, I think I kickstarted and I probably like put $60 down, and if I had not kickstarted it and just bought it today, it wouldn't be $60. So that's the one flip side of it. But at least I helped make the game come true.
It makes you wonder because like when that Kickstarter first came out, they even announced like Vita versions as well.
Yeah, I canceled that.
And
I kickstarted the Wii U version. So,
holy crap!
Yeah.
Yeah. So like as powerful as the Switch version is, it makes you wonder how many more problems they would have had with the Vita version, or maybe even the Wii U version.
Yeah, Wii U would not run. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, I was there from the beginning. There were huge like loading issues, like in the same room, pretty much.
Yeah.
So you're right. 1.04 is probably on the same level as the other ones. I mean, with the exception of frame rate, of course. It's never going to match the frame rate of the big consoles.
I mean, it's smooth from what I played. I don't know.
John's super particular on frame rate. Like if it's 58,
that's my thing.
He's upset.
That's right. Anything below 40, thumbs down. Okay. Anyway.
Well, I don't even know. Maybe I'm just ignorant against this. Let me look this up while we're on here. What's the frame rate on the other consoles versus this one?
It's a solid 60, and then the Switch is
30.
Is 30 except when there's like gigantic bosses. I think there's. What was the last boss that I fought? I forgot. But like oftentimes you would get like somebody's pet cat that would just appear, like somebody's some Kickstarter backer's cat or dog that appears. You know how like or like, and it takes up like the whole screen. That would sometimes bog down the Switch. Dude, Brandon, is your face in the game? Like, are you one of those? Because you know how like they have those pictures.
I only was like a $60 backer. I'm sure you had to be like $1,000 backer.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because so for those that don't know, for the audiences that don't know, like there's times in the game where you fight these pictures that come out of the walls, and they're the pictures of these backers, the Kickstarter backers, but they're all dressed in 18th century clothes and whatnot.
Yeah, sure.
And to add to that too, people have on a higher tier have uploaded pictures of their pets, and those enemies are used in the game as like there's one where it's like this disfigured Yorkshire Terrier head that just comes like and attacks you. So
that's awesome.
You'll see that. You'll see that later.
I mean, I played literally the prologue, and then I'll talk about it more next time, I'm sure. But
it'll be done next week.
You're like, oh, this is a Kickstarter.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. That's cool.
Well, for me, kind of like what John alluded to, I had a baby boy this week, so lack of sleep.
Papa Jake.
But man, it's been fun. But yeah, my gaming took a tank this week, even with like help from families. Like I think I played just 3 hours of Kakarot the other night when I was watching him like overnight, and he was kind of like pretty much asleep most of the time. So I just had my headset on. I'm watching him and playing, and that was like that's like my only time. I couldn't even do it last night. I was so exhausted. I just wanted to sleep in between those moments. But that's it. I was playing Dragon Ball Kakarot. Almost nothing added. I haven't gotten to Namek yet. I said goodbye to Chi-Chi. I'm just flying around doing like some small side quests. I'm having a really good time playing as Gohan. This is really, really fun playing as him.
Boy!
I did like a mental, I don't know if you guys watched the anime, but he does mental simulation training against Krillin at various points where you sit down, face each other, imagine the other person, and you guys face off against it. It's a good way to like introduce fighting. For example, in that battle, Gohan has trouble imagining Krillin, so he's training for it. He can't remember it. He just remembers the bald head, and it turns into Nappa. And then now you face off against Nappa again. This is like after the that small. So like that thing's kind of cool. Like small things like that. I helped Turtle get some food for Master Roshi. Just small side quests. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I do want to play some more, but it's been a it's been a week. Yeah.
It's come first.
But that's pretty much it, guys. Let's move into the first bit of the podcast. This is gonna be the best bit with the following question: what game has the best video? Best pixel art in video games? Let's start with John. What's your selection? There's so much to choose from.
Yeah.
There's so much to choose from, and it's kind of weird. Like when I was thinking about this question, I was trying to think about the basis for this question. Like, best pixel art, because it's kind of subjective, right? I mean, you can't. It's
what's subjective? It's the best, or if it's pixel art?
Well, I mean, like if it's, I mean, like what justifies the best pixel? Yeah. If it's
I mean, best
not.
is the subjective part. Yeah.
So I think, so there's the honorable mention that comes to mind, and there's a bunch of titles recently, like Celeste and whatnot and Dead Cells that you can think of recently, but I reached further back, like way back, to like the NES era, and my honorable mention is Mega Man 2.
Ooh,
because
you like those,
right? The dragon at the end of Wily's castle.
Yeah.
The technological wizardry that had to happen for that dragon to appear on screen. I mean,
it's like a background piece or something, right?
Yeah, like they had to make it so that he was a background, and then because it was pushing so many colors, like there was nothing else on the screen. It was just black. So from a technical standpoint, I think that was the best pixel art. But from my own personal perspective, in terms of like what they were able to achieve without having to just hand draw something like on the screen, just like animating something pixel by pixel. Jake's gonna have to dig a little bit for this one to find the clip for this, but
I'll find it, man.
Parodius, Kako no Eiko no Motomete.
Oh, dude, you suck. That's gonna be hard.
Jake doesn't speak Japanese. He's gonna be like, Google Translate. What did John just say?
I'll text it to you later.
Okay.
I mean, AKA Fantastic Journey. It's a 1994. I know. It's a 1994 Super Famicom game that has like gigantic bosses and whatnot. That are all. It's all pixel art and it's all animated and whatnot. It's super colorful. It's really amazing what they were able to do with those pixels.
Is this your number one or still honorable mention?
This is my number one. This is my number one. So
never heard of this game.
Okay, this is gonna sound really weird, but the first level, you're fighting a panda dressed in a tutu.
Yep. All right, I'm in. Sign me up.
And the animations are just hilarious. And like I said, this is all pixel art, so they were able to do this on a 16-bit system was just amazing.
Damn,
I think it was the second level. You're fighting the boss is like a mermaid with a pirate ship for a head, or on her forehead. Just Google it later. But this is some of the best art ever. And now that when I saw this question, it's one of the first things that my mind went to. So
did it come out in the States?
No, it came out in Japan in April of 1994, and in Europe as Fantastic Journey in the same year. So, but it never came stateside.
Well, it's
a shooting game along the lines of Gradius. Yeah, along the lines of Gradius, and the series. It's one game in a 6-game series called Parodius, which is basically like it is what it sounds like. It's a parody of Konami's Gradius games.
Right on.
But yep, that's my pick.
Good stuff.
Gokujo Parodius.
Well, for me, I brought one honorable mention, and then so I was thinking about Dead Cells 2. That almost made it as my honorable mention. I mean, I don't think I've played, enough of it, but super pretty. It's a pretty game. I know Brandon wasn't like a big fan of the game itself, but I know John is. Like, you guys are way different.
Yeah. It's fun, but it's not my favorite, actually.
Yeah.
I didn't think I would like a roguelike as much as I did Dead Cells, but
yeah,
I mean, it's fun, man.
Brandon, I don't
like it.
I mean, you like the Metroidvania style.
Oh,
games,
I just don't like roguelikes because I hate the feeling of losing the progression. Okay. I hate the feeling of spending an hour or 2 hours to get to the boss, dying, and then it's like, sick. Glad I'm here now.
Yeah.
Like, at least in Dark Souls, you can, like, the checkpoints aren't that unforgiving, right?
Okay, good, man.
Just replaying the entire game. Yes, I get it's like randomly generated levels, so like that's the fun. But to me, it's like more frustrating than it is fun.
Yeah.
Well, my honorable mention is actually coming from Darren, and I have to agree with him. He messaged us in the group chat last night. Octopath Traveler. Yeah.
That's a good choice, yeah.
It's simply beautiful. It's such a good game.
Yeah, that's nice.
Work of art. It brings back like the best of the 16-bit era, like all the modern touches. You got The water is like super reflective, and it's pretty the way it moves in the background. You got the fire that's going on like torches throughout towns and stuff. Attack animations are beautiful. It's a step above like most of the other titles that are like that in this game. Like anyone can make like a pixel game, it seems like. In today, I don't know, just it brings something new that 2.5 HD, whatever they kind of called it. But I want them to remaster all of my old like 16-bit era games that I love. I would love that to be in that style, like for them.
Chrono Trigger in that
like
style.
Chrono Trigger. Yes, I was gonna say.
So this is my number one, Chrono Trigger. You
Oh,
guys did it.
there you go.
Yeah, you guys went right into it. This is what I want. I want them to like even like give it this treatment. But even without that, I still think like I'm surprised how well this game holds up just as it is. You know, and again, I only played this after Brandon
You're
made
welcome.
me. Yeah. Lost a bet first. I think it was the first E3 bet. And
Yeah, I think that was the first E3 betting special.
yeah, we had to basically, once I lost that, I had to beat a game of his choice to credits roll before I could start a new one, because I kind of game hopped. Hey, 10 minutes of this game, 30 minutes of this game, done. So I was like, I had to finish one. I was like, okay,
Crack the
I'll
whip.
do it. And honestly, there's so much like attention to detail in this game, from like the environment to the clouds, mountains, trees, homes. I actually zoomed in on this while kind of looking into like which one I wanted to pick. They have like libraries of books, like small items up under the tables in the background. Like the wood is pretty finely grained. The bed looks super well created. Like this game is 25 years old, and I still think like it holds up really, really well. I played it on the 3DS after borrowing the cart from Brandon, but just like walking around, you start. The first thing you really have to do, I think, is go to Lean Square or Leanne Square or whatever it's called. It's just north of your house. Like you're walking, and the clouds are right above your character floating. I don't remember if they're casting a shadow, but it's just super pretty. You walk into that square, and it's like super lively, and there's people like so surprised. Like it really does hold up, like just as it is. Like I don't know. I really
You
enjoyed
could,
it.
it's like you
Timeless.
could play it today and still be like,
One of the greats.
I mean,
I
it
did
helps
play it
that,
today, and I can
Akira
attest to that.
Toriyama is the character designer, so.
Yeah.
He is.
So can I make a quick honorable mention? Really?
Yeah.
Sure.
So you're talking about the like Square RPGs, Final Fantasy VI, 3 in the States, super emotive characters. So it's kind of neat what they were able to do with a few pixels.
Yeah, that's a good looking
Sorry, I
game.
had to put that out there.
What about you, B-Ray? What are you bringing?
All right, I got some good games.
Okay.
So I've got a couple old, couple new. So let's start one of my honorable mentions, Metal Slug 3.
Oh,
Okay.
man. How did I
Metal
miss
Slug
that?
games
Yeah.
look
Oh, you're
so
right.
good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh, yeah,
let me
you're
just. Jake's gonna throw some amazing artwork here
Yeah,
in post,
yeah.
but
You guys will
Metal
see it.
Slug is just known for the most incredible animation, just so much attention to detail. I absolutely love like how zany those things get. Like you're in the desert environments, you're in space environments, underwater environments, and everything is just so handcrafted, well animated, and it's just absolutely gorgeous to look at. Newer game, The Messenger. I love the art direction of The Messenger. It's very, very creative because there's a mechanic where you actually switch between 8-bit and 16-bit. And both 18-bit and 16-bit versions of the environments and the character are extremely, extremely well done. It just looks very vibrant, great colors. They recently released some free DLC. We were actually going to an island, so now you're on like beach environments, and very colorful, very fun to look at. Very, very highly recommend that game. My last honorable mention is another throwback. Yoshi's Island, or the full title, I believe, is Super Mario World 2 Yoshi's Island. This game looks like a storybook. Absolutely incredible for what they were able to do on the Super Nintendo. And, I've never actually beaten Yoshi's Island all the way through, which I guess is a gaming sin for some. The Yoshi's style of gameplay isn't like the most appealing to me, but I will stand behind the graphic and art design. It is absolutely incredible to watch in motion. And just the way that everything just looks so fun and vibrant. And again, a theme here, just how fun and colorful things are.
Dude, I played that for the first time like a couple months ago. For anyone not
Really?
aware, that came out on the Super Nintendo online service,
Switch,
service for the Switch. And so like I booted it up and gave it a couple hours of gameplay, and I'm in the exact same boat. Not my thing. I love Super Mario World. I don't like the egg throwing mechanic. I don't like some of that screaming baby.
That you got. You're gonna get used to that real fast.
Yeah,
dude.
but I mean it's fun. It's
baby,
for what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's beautiful. I have to hand it to from a purely artistic perspective. Pixel art is gorgeous. But my number one pixel art choice is Owlboy.
Interesting.
Owl.
And
Interesting.
if you haven't heard of this game, it was an indie game that released, I want to say like a couple years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, and it was in development for such a long time, and it really shows when you just look at one screenshot of this game. I played this. I think Jake, you got it on Humble Bundle. I think it just like family share it from your account, and you know, it's a fun game. It's probably not my favorite game of all time, but the pixel art just continued to amaze me. Just how incredibly detailed every environment is, how incredibly detailed the animations are. This game in motion is like unlike anything I've seen. And so for that reason and more, I have to, you know, give it the nod for best pixel art.
Was that also developed by like one dude? Like, what wasn't it something like his lifetime dream or something?
I think it was a small team.
Small.
The only games that I know are like one dude. Cave Story was one dude. Axiom Verge was one dude. And most of Undertale was one dude. Those are the big indie hits. I think Owlboy had a couple people at least.
Dude, I'm looking at this pixel art right now. It's pretty cool. They have like animated GIFs on their website.
Yeah, it's
pretty
unreal.
legit.
It's unlike any other retro style game I've ever seen in motion.
Yeah, whenever I was looking up different ones to pick from, basically games I played and really, really liked, I saw a ton of different lists, and this one kept hitting the mark. It was on like at least every top 10 list I'd come across. Yeah. I haven't played it personally, so like even if it is on my account, that could be said about like 90% of my games. But yeah,
it's beautiful though.
It's a good looking game. Let's transition into a new segment called Pro Versions, guys. So this is kind of like part of gaming news. It was kind of confirmed during an investors call this week. Nintendo says there's no new plan for a hardware revision or model like in 2020. They finally kind of put a stop to that rumors. And before a lot of people will say like, you know, they do this all the time. They'll say, no, we're not doing that, and the next month drop it. I think it's a little bit different this time because it's an investors call. Like, you don't usually mess with like, because when they can say anything to the media, they can say anything to just like independent sources. You really don't want to do that.
Not to cut you off there, dude, but I think Nintendo knows anything they say in investor meeting will be public knowledge and will be shared by the media. So if Nintendo says we are making a new version of the Switch, all current Switch sales are going to plummet because everyone is going to wait. Which is exactly what is happening with Microsoft, because Microsoft had a dip in hardware sales because everyone is waiting for the new Xbox. Yeah. Nintendo knows that. They're not stupid.
I don't know. Just from an investing standpoint, like people will put their money into your pool. They'll put it into your account based off information like that, and you kind of don't want to mislead them. I know that stuff is public. You can go to the Security Exchange Commission's website. You can download their 10K. You can review it. Just the moment you can see like information that's been posted on there, especially if you're an investor, you actually can attend the meeting itself. But it's I don't know. It'd be a little bit of like a breach of confidence if they say, hey, we're not doing this, and they do it. It's like you maybe made an investing decision based off what they said. Like, sure. I get it, though. Like, I mean, anytime they just say it out to the public just broadly like that, like, I don't take it at face value. But long story short, that was it. That's just something that kind of sparked this idea. But my thought for the panel here is, how many versions of the same generational product have you actually purchased? For example, like the DS came out, DS, DSi, Lite, 3DS for the Xbox, the normal Xbox, the VCR player looking thing, the S, Series X. What features would the Switch Pro have to make you purchase it? And just for me, real quick, I don't have a lot to say on it, but I've only done it a couple of times where I'm like double dipping in the same generation with like a small upgrade. PS4 I had for like a month or two before I upgraded to the Pro. I had the DS XL, like just the XL version of the DS, and then I upgraded the 3DS after a couple years. Game Boy Advance with Game Boy SP. I actually only got the SP like a year or two ago, and then 360 with the 360S, like the 250 gigabyte model. The only thing the Switch could do, I would say, for me to buy it is if they like drastically improved the gameplay performance, or kind of did like a Pro version or a Xbox One X version of the same thing, where like Brandon was saying at one of our podcasts, if it gave it Breath of the Wild that, say, even just 1080p 60, like everything's super smooth, beautiful, like in all their games kind of have that, like I'd buy that, like I'll take the hit for the upgrade just to play like all my games at the premiere like setting for that you can get on like console. It'd be awesome if it had like a longer battery life. I would still say the performance would trump that. Same battery life as my OG one, but with a better, graphical fidelity, then I'd do it. Some other considerations: it'd be cool to have like better quality parts instead of like just say like your normal plastic cases and stuff, like some type of metal or something similar to like an Elite version with like
no more Joy-Con drift, dude.
Yeah, okay, so that's pretty big. That's it. That's my thoughts. Yeah. What about you, Brandon? What would be, I guess, what have you double dipped on kind of in the same generation? And
so I've basically had every Nintendo handheld since the original Game Boy.
Damn.
But in terms of double dipping, I haven't had every handheld, but I've had every generation, I guess is a better way to say it. So Game Boy, I don't know if people consider the Game Boy Color part of that same line. A lot of times I see people lump those two together. At the time when I was a kid, I thought it was like the next big thing. Yeah. But I typically see like Game Boy Color as like one generation in like publications and things like that. And then Game Boy Advance as the next leap. So I had a Game Boy Advance. My sister had a Game Boy Advance SP. I always just had a Game Boy Advance. SP had the backlight and the clamshell design. And then DS. Now,
not all of them had the backlight. I think the 101 was the only one with the backlight for the SP.
Really?
Yeah. So you actually have to specifically look for it. Mine doesn't have the backlight, and those are more expensive too.
The ones with or without?
With, like, people want that.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. Like adding a backlight to a handheld console is like now such a requirement, right? Now I would so I got the original DS at launch, and I would argue the DS to DS Lite jump was probably the most drastic and improved console revision that I've ever seen.
Agreed.
The original DS, it was a great concept, but if you've ever seen this thing, it's like so ugly. It's a chunker. Yeah. The buttons are so uncomfortable. Those D-pad buttons, there's something about they kind of just like dig into your skin. They're kind of like they're like hard on the outside of the buttons, and the triggers are tiny and like very hard to push in. And so I did upgrade to the DS Lite when that was released, and wow, that is a good console. That's really where the DS family like had it hit its stride, I would argue. And then I had the DS Lite. I did not get the XL, and then I know they also made a DSi, but to me the DSi like didn't. They had like the early version of an eShop, which was like that. That was the reason for why you should buy it. And then they also had like an integrated camera, but at that time like iPhones were coming out, and you're like, well, why would I need a DS to do stuff that like a phone?
It was such a shitty camera.
Reaction to like the App Store. They were like, oh, there's this thing called an App Store. Maybe we should have something like it.
So didn't get into that. And then 3DS to new 3DS, I actually did make the upgrade, and I never played a 3DS game, a new 3DS game that was exclusive to new 3DS. But the reason I got the upgrade is I actually got Majora's Mask Collector's Edition new 3DS, and with Majora's Mask 3D, the addition of that other nub allows you to have a additional camera control. So you can move the camera around like a C-stick, and so that to me was compelling enough. And in Smash Brothers on 3DS, if you have that additional little nub on the new 3DS, you can use that for smash attacks.
It's all about that nub.
Dude, yeah, I mean, honestly, it looks stupid, but for like what it is and what it does, It's kind of like a laptop track ball or whatever those things are in the middle.
Yeah.
Like
kind of
a Lenovo. Like
Yeah.
a Lenovo
track ball.
I call it like the track nipple.
Yeah, track nipple. Yeah. And it's funny because you look at it like that thing's not gonna move. Like it looks just like a button, but it actually does respond.
It registers.
It registers pretty well. So I think those are all the revisions outside of upgrading my PC, which is just a constant thing that happens. And then what was the follow-up? So things I want to see. Yeah,
so like the Switch specifically, if there was a Pro, which may or may not come, depending on whatever your interpretation of their investors call is, what would make you make the leap?
You know, I know you can do this as an add-in, but I would love a formal D-pad on the portable version.
John did that.
Yeah, I know you can switch that out.
I have
yeah.
my Hori.
Yeah, I think that if that was
there.
standard, that would be great because I think for gaming on the go, just having a D-pad is so nice for platformers and things like that. Obviously, upgraded graphics and processing power. I'm trying to think. I really like the Switch. I think the other thing, I don't know how often it would be used, but maybe like a multi-touch display. So the current display I think is only single touch. So having it be more like Apple products where it's a multi-touch.
Would you actually use it though?
From
Yeah,
like
that's
a gameplay perspective.
That's what I'm wondering, right? Like if it would really add that much to gaming. That's the one that I'm not like positive about in terms of how much of a game changer it would be. It's maybe more of like a nice to have. That's really it. Like I've said before, I love the Pro controller, so I don't really think they need to add anything there.
We got 3.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they did a pretty good job. You know, like it's funny because you look at things like the PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 4 Pro, and it's like they didn't really change much, and like maybe they didn't need to, but.
Dude, they changed a good amount, I would say. I think it performs way better. I played like Horizon Zero Dawn.
Well, yeah, I mean they changed, in terms of the processing, right? But that's the thing. Like for those types of like Pro models, I guess that's just the expectation that it's a better processor and graphics card. They're not going to really reinvent. Because to me, like DS to DS Lite is a complete overhaul, right? Like the buttons you're pressing are different, the screens are different, the design is different. Like PlayStation 4 to PlayStation 4 Pro, like you're still using the same controller. It's just like a little faster, and maybe that's the difference between a console and a handheld. And so like the Switch kind of falls into this weird area where it's because if you're reinventing the console, maybe you will reinvent parts of it from the portable perspective, and that's what I don't know if they would do.
What about you, John? Same questions.
So looking back on like my gaming history, a lot of the upgrades. The most upgrades I made were mostly with handhelds.
Yeah.
I never owned a Game Boy. I did have a Game Boy Advance, but the trend that I noticed with my own gaming history is that every time I upgraded something, it was because of portability. So, let me reach over here. So I had a Game Boy Advance. And
you got everything in reach.
Yeah,
like everything.
It's John's man cave.
Yeah. So I picked up a Game Boy Micro because
one of the few people that have one. There you go.
Yeah. So it was just becoming annoying to carry my Advance with me, and so this thing, you don't even need to like have a bag or whatever. You just stick this in your pocket. I thought this is magical when I picked this up. That was my first one, really. And then moving on to the DS and the DS Lite, I agree, Brandon, that jump. I mean, it was like Apple product quality improvement in terms of like build quality and design. It's so much so that like I hated the design of the DS when I first got it, or when I first saw it. But when I saw the DS Lite, the DS wasn't even on my radar, and I saw that, and for anybody that knows me, they know that I'm a sucker for design. Yeah. So I picked a white one up purely on like just the design of it because I just thought it was so sexy.
Good looking machine.
Yeah. So for the 3DS, I had a 3DS XL with the Circle Pad Pro.
Oh, I had one of those too. Yeah.
Oh my God, that thing was just a chonker.
Yeah.
And it got annoying trying to find a bag or something to hold it in to carry it around. So that's what prompted me to get the new 3DS. Partly because of the portability, but the annoying thing about this was this wasn't sold individually initially from Nintendo. You had to buy this as a bundle with Animal Crossing. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'll suffer through the Animal Crossing. I could care less about. Well, it wasn't that because it wasn't a true. Well, it wasn't a true Animal Crossing game. I think that was like the interior design one.
Oh,
do you remember?
It wasn't
yeah. No, it wasn't New Leaf. I mean, New Leaf was great.
Happy
I
Home
love
Designer
Animal Crossing.
Stupid.
Yeah, I was like Happy Home Designer or something like that. That's what I meant by suffer through Animal Crossing. They had a really crappy. So I mean, I could care less. I couldn't care less for that game. So, anyways, I just got it for this. And then like 6 months later, Nintendo decides, okay, well, we sold so many copies of Animal Crossing Interior Designer, so we'll just release it separately. So there's that. So in terms of actual consoles, like I said, I never owned a Sega Genesis, so ergo I never really bought a 32X or a Sega CD. But I don't know if I would have asked my parents to get me one though, because it just didn't seem like that big of a leap. Maybe the 32X, but what am I saying? Like the Sega CD had like full motion video and stuff like that. But anyways.
What about like the Switch? What would you take to? What feature would it take for you to upgrade?
So, for the Switch, just the performance alone, I think, like you were mentioning earlier, Jake, if we could get like 60 frames per second.
He's a frame guy.
Yeah.
Loves those frames.
Right. If I can get my Breath of the Wild at a smooth 60, or hell, like Doom or Wolfenstein, because those were good games, but the frame rate did take away a little bit. I mean, just again because I'm a frame rate whore, so it took a little bit away from the experience. Just performance alone would do it, Jake. I mean, and so that's why it's kind of disappointing to hear this call. But that's about it. I mean, like I have a PS4 Pro, but that's just because I had to justify some like my 4K TV purchase.
There you go.
I was like, I have nothing on 4K to play on my 4K TV.
That's funny. I just remembered. I actually did. I started with the PlayStation 3 Fat, and it broke the Blu-ray.
Lens,
whatever the hell, lens or whatever broke. So I actually did upgrade to a PlayStation 3 Slim at that point, which was a pretty significant upgrade. You do lose the PlayStation 2 backwards compatibility, which was a little bit of a bummer.
Yeah.
But the actual console
touch
itself.
sensitive buttons.
Touch sensitive buttons. Yeah, that was never like a huge thing for me. It was just like, okay, cool.
Oh, okay.
But PlayStation 3 Slim, I thought was a nice looking machine. It really cut down because that thing was, speaking of chunkers, a huge chunker, the original PlayStation.
I think mine's right here. You see it? That's the one I have, PS3 Slim, I believe.
Slim, yeah.
The top part actually slides or something. I don't know what version that is.
They made a couple revisions.
That's the third version. So the second one still had a slot loading drive.
Yep. That's what I got.
Like the
I had no idea how to open this thing when I got it. Like I was like, how the hell do you open this thing? Yeah, I was like, what the hell? Is there no button, nothing? Oh, you just actually physically slide the damn thing. Like, move it yourself. But
I wonder if Sony still supports it with, like, I mean, if you tried to connect it to the internet.
It does.
Would you be able to download
PlayStation
games?
Yeah. That's what Brandon still rocks too. But I used to download the free games every month on PlayStation Plus still on when they had.
Until that stopped.
Yeah, until it stopped. But actually, this transitions nextly into our next segment. I'm going to call it Current Gen Woes. So, what features or lack thereof of the current generation of gaming consoles do you wish to see resolved with the Xbox Series X or PS5? If you had to add one feature to each new system launching this year, what would it be and why? So kind of similar to, like, say, the Switch, but kind of like how we were talking about what features would it take for us to buy it. Just what things did you not like about this generation, and what features would you want to see included into the next one, end of this year? And John, let's start with you, man.
I noticed a trend with this generation, particularly with the UI on like the Switch and the PlayStation 4. I can't speak to Xbox because I never owned it, or the Xbox One, but it lists your games by default in order of recently played, and a trend that I noticed was that I would play a game, and then I would just play the same like 3 or 4 games over and over and over and over again, and then like you would scroll down your list on your history and realize, oh yeah, that's right, I have this. It's like it's in your backlog. So like, I mean, you can obviously sort by alphabetical and whatnot, but I think just in terms of just like user interface design, just having like a grid from the beginning, I think would help out immensely. So no real hardware complaints, but just purely from a UI perspective, that's what I'm thinking of.
So that's something you don't like on the current one, and then that be a feature that you'd want on, like, say, the PS5?
Yes.
Okay.
Just give me a grid. Or you know what? I loved the PS3 cross media bar interface.
Yeah, I like it too.
Just have Sony open source that and give it to everybody, because that
Or
was
just give you the option, let you change it the way you want, like customize it a little bit.
Let you custom. Make it like Linux. Make it where you would have like your base operating system, but you would skin your own shit on top of it, put your own UI on it, and perhaps their user base would create something that Sony would never be able to think of before. So
people have been clamoring for like folders on the Switch, kind of like for that reason, so you can just organize it. Say you want like your platformers, you want your action RPGs, your strategy RPGs, whatever. Just you want to like be able to customize it, put in your own folders, have it on your home screen. Maybe you only have like 4 main folders that you usually click through, but or just something.
Right,
just
it makes your backlog.
Yeah.
It makes your backlog that much more shameful because you
exactly
never actually see it.
Yeah, right.
Games I've never booted 93.
Yeah,
and it's just sitting in there.
Yeah.
What about you, Brandon?
But
all right, so let's go through things I didn't like, I guess, and then I'll go things I want. So I was never huge. Now I don't own a PlayStation 4, but I kind of think the PlayStation 4 like light controller thing and the touchpad on the PlayStation 4 are like a little silly.
yeah.
I don't know. The design of that controller is not amazing. And help me understand. Do those controllers have analog triggers, or are they digital?
Yes.
They do? Okay.
They're analog.
So that's something, at least from a Switch perspective, I miss. I love the analog triggers on GameCube, and games that take advantage of analog triggers, I feel like that's an added level.
Or have it like the GameCube, where it'll be analog up until the last 95%, and then that last bit click.
It's so satisfying.
Right.
I know. I love that
That'd be
GameCube
good.
controller.
Yeah.
So that's a big one. Something that I actually really liked about an old console, specifically the 3DS, and this might be controversial. I actually really liked glasses-free 3D, and I don't know if this would be possible, but glasses-free TV technology and glasses-free consoles for 3D might be kind of cool. I know wearing 3D glasses is like kind of a sign of the times, but I don't know. I thought 3D was cool tech. Some of the things that I've heard about the upcoming consoles that I actually am excited about do relate to the controller input. So things like more haptic trigger feedback. So as you're pulling the trigger back, it relates to analog, right? If you're pushing the trigger back, it pushes back a little bit harder if you're like going through mud or something. I think we've talked about that. That to me would be an exciting addition. Let's see.
Doesn't the
else.
Xbox controller have that kind of like that?
Yeah, but the game
haptic trigger.
I don't know if does the game like respond to that? Does the controller actually change the weight? I think you can manually change the sensitivity yourself, but I don't think
Gen's gonna have that. Like
I think that's the
PS5 already
point,
said.
right?
Oh, okay. Okay.
You'll feel like running over a rock while you're racing. Like the gravel itself is going to be more like you're going to feel it better in the controller. Like that's what Sony was saying with their
It's funny. Something that I've never been like crazy on is 6-axis control. I know that's been there since PlayStation 3, where you like tilt the controller and it's like motion control, but like you're not doing full motion controls. I don't know how I feel about that. Some games implement it okay. Sometimes it can be a little annoying. So I don't know if we necessarily need that. I'm sure they're going to add it though, because like everyone wants to feel like they're more in control because they're like, throwing the controller
it's the
left
last
and right.
vestiges of the Wii Waggle.
Yeah, the Wii Waggle.
Dude, they had to do that in Detroit Become Human. There were times where you had to actually physically like jerk your controller to the side to like, push somebody or something, and I just remember messing up a lot of QuickTime events that way. It's like you would do it. It's like, no, you have to do it like this, not like push forward or whatever it is.
If it's like VR and everything is motion control, I'm okay with that. But this like weird hybrid between like you're moving with the joystick and then you're pressing buttons and then now you gotta move your thing or shake your thing or
gotta shake your
like
thing.
Even Breath of the Wild, like that's the one thing that I'll give it a knock. Like the motion control temples are like no, I'm good. Like, I don't need to use the motion control. I'm glad that you guys wanted to add another feature here, but like I could do without, or at least give me an option to not use motion controls. I'm trying to think what else I'd like to see. I'd be curious to see. I mean, I feel like if I was going to get VR, it would be on PC. But to encourage the usage of VR, I would love for that to be a part of future consoles and future releases. I know that'd be difficult, and like I said, I'm kind of a hypocrite because I don't think I would buy it anyway. I think I would buy it on PC knowing it's the superior version. But that's kind of the direction I'd like to see them head at least.
I've got 2 comments on stuff you mentioned. One was like, say, the PS4 controller. I fully agree with the light bar. Like, it was kind of cool playing, say, if you play Last of Us 2, it's an indicator of your health. If it gets down to like orange or red or whatever, like you're losing health. Okay.
But are you really looking at your hands during
the whole
Last
reason
of Us?
they changed the controller format to now the newer controllers for PS4 have a small like see-through area on the front strip so that you can actually see that color, because you can't unless it's bouncing off the TV. But so it just drains the battery. I would much prefer a say 60-hour battery or whatever it is on like the Switch Pro controller than a 4-hour on
it feels like Sony was trying to like bring something from their old iToy and thinking they could do more with that with the PS4, and then realizing
motion control,
we can't do
cameras.
Because like it's the same thing with like the touchpad on here.
Yeah.
How many times have you actually used this damn?
I was about to mention that.
Like
there was a game where like you have to kind of like a scratch off ticket. I don't remember what it was, but you had to just go like this with your finger. Oh fuck! I remember what it was. Again, Detroit Become Human. Kara, you're cleaning dishes in the home. Like it's part of it, and that's you cleaning dishes, like something like this. And I was like, okay, I could do without it.
Exactly mimics the motion of cleaning dishes, guys.
It's just the whole thing. It's a gimmick, like you said. Like it's something like, okay, so this game made use of their motion controllers. This game made use of the scratch mechanic. Like I don't remember if there was.
I'll tell you what, it's so much of a gimmick that even like third-party manufacturers like Hori, they've just relegated that to just a single button in some of their third-party controllers. Like funny. You're not going to use that touchpad.
Here's the touchpad button.
Another thing, I don't remember where I heard this, but for one of the, I want to say like the DS models or something, like you could blow into it and it would like say blow out a candle or something. Microphone. I think I heard. I'd have to like fact check myself on this because I just heard it somewhere, but like Hideo Kojima was like pitching something to, I want to say Shigeru Miyamoto, trying to say like, hey, I have a really good idea for like a vampire game. And
I think this was on Easy Allies. Dude.
That's what it was? Okay. So somebody,
the garlic thing?
Yeah, garlic. That's what it was. Like, I just ate garlic, so now I blow into it and like the vampire dies.
But,
and everybody was like, get out of here. And like, go.
Ideas.
I mean, he did make Boktai, which had a
I was going to say,
sensor.
he did make Boktai. Yeah. But, I mean, that stuff goes way back, though. I mean, if you think about, like, the original Legend of Zelda for the Famicom.
Oh, yeah.
The Famicom had
voices.
actual microphones, right? The Pulse voice was, sensitive to voice. You would scream to the controller. Well, us Americans didn't get that feature, so those things are basically invincible. I think were they invincible? Were they bombed? Okay.
Yeah,
all right. So I guess you can still take them out with bombs, but Yeah.
N64 had Hey You Pikachu little attachment that would go to your controller.
Didn't work, yeah.
Yeah, that was rough. Actually, I have that game. It came with a bundle I bought off eBay, but I don't have the microphone, so I can't play it.
Oh, you can't play it, yeah.
I wouldn't play it anyways, but for me answering the same question, one feature that Xbox announced that I'm actually super happy for, and I hope PS5 actually adopts this because I'm probably going to end up not getting an Xbox, but and I also hope like that Nintendo, whatever their next version is, has this, but they can suspend multiple titles at once. That was one of the things that they announced at the Game Awards. I think it was at the Game Awards or like an interview after, but now you can suspend one game. You can suspend one app, and then if you open another one, it closes that one. So the fact that it opens up more than one for people like me and John.
Yeah, I was going to say, Jake, I'll never need that.
Yeah,
I only ever play one game.
But me, say I'm I got DBZ Kakarot and I got Call of Duty. I'm like, fuck, I don't want to close out a DBZ Kakarot. It takes 10 minutes to get into. But I want to play Call of Duty and I'll bounce back between those two. So it is cool.
You'll have your Death Stranding, but you have to close out the entire damn game.
Yeah. It's just it's different than I have my Super Nintendo. Bloop on that's booting. Yeah, you have to physically go over there and move it, but with a current gen system, it's you turn it on, it's minutes. You have to wait to get in the game.
Jake, what was that VR game that had a Super Nintendo emulator, but it emulated a
MUVR.
I'm gonna go look it up. What's it?
It's called MUVR, and it's not official from what I remember. I got it off some guys.
Oh, okay. So it's a side load.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Well,
sketchy backdoor shady deals over here.
I like it, man. You actually spawn an old CRT in there. You can spawn a Super Nintendo or an N64. You spawn old cartridges with ROMs on them that you procured legally, and then you can actually take the ROM or it'll be a physical cartridge. Put it in the N64. Push the button to turn it on. Plug the cables into the back. Plug it into the TV. Reposition the TV. It's pretty cool.
This exists.
And then the whole room is 90s themed. You even have those old plates.
Take you back, dude. That's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
But okay, so I just checked. It's definitely not in the Quest store as expected.
Yeah, I found it.
I mean, it's like a ROM thing.
Yeah. Someone on Reddit was like, "Hey, look at this thing I'm building, and if you want to subscribe to my Discord," and I checked it out. I was like, "Let me see what this is." This is speaking to me, but it's actually super buggy. The guy's not really updating it well.
Oh, he stopped it. Oh.
I don't know if he stopped it or maybe I just haven't updated a newer version. I haven't. Maybe it's probably not getting automatic updates or something, but I don't really boot it anymore. But continuing on. What is it? They finally patched DBZ Kakarot on the PS4 this past week, and I think I talked on either the last podcast or the one before. It used to be if you fly into the next section, it's a minute sometimes between loading areas. You're in the Corrin's Tower, you want to go to West City, you're gonna wait for a minute. Now it's down to 15 seconds.
Nice.
And it's a significant improvement. I was just playing it 2 nights ago, and moving forward, I know Sony said hey, this is our solid state drive. Spider-Man, you're basically no loading. Yeah, even with Spider-Man now, their loading is you go into a train system and it shows him or he's on a train, he's talking to other passengers and stuff, and that's while it's loading. God of War kind of hides it with you go into this other realm and you're just running in a circle and some headless guy is spouting nonsense to you or mythology or something. It's a good way to hold it. Other games do it with elevators, but now it just won't be necessary, hopefully. Solid state drive is quick enough, but so that's kind of big. What else? I'd probably say for the PS5, I'd prefer just better loading times, and for the Xbox, don't really care because I'm probably not going to get one. I don't see anything compelling. But let's move on to the War Cry guys, our final segment of this podcast.
Let's do it.
When are you finished with a game? Are you a completionist regarding contender achievements, or are you okay quitting a game after only a short time with it? Does the game need to provide a certain number of gameplay hours to justify its cost? I'll start with this one. I'm definitely not a completionist. It's rare. Very few games actually draw me in completely with that. In the last 5 years, probably 2 or 3 or 4, something like that. Just a handful where I'm going all the way with it. I try not to tie a price to my enjoyment of a game, especially if I paid $60 for this 7-hour title, but had a really good time with it, I'm okay with it. If I did the same thing, $60 for a 70-hour game, and I'm just kind of struggling to complete it, But since I already dropped the cash anyways, I might as well push through. You're actually going into like sunk cost fallacy territory. Like if you're not enjoying it, just hard quit it. Like it's not worth it to me. Like to continue wasting my time just because I spent money on this game. It's not worth it. I don't have any problem dropping a game that doesn't hook me. Maybe you watched a trailer or some gameplay, but kind of like avoided getting too deep into spoiling anything, and you just realized that the game didn't quite hook you after a certain amount of hours. It's fine. At least for me, there's nothing wrong with like stopping. I've done that where I don't want to get spoiled. I'm just like, oh, okay, this looks kind of cool. This looks like something I'd like.
So you just dive in, yeah.
And then it's like, fuck, I should have done more research or something.
Yikes.
But I think time's much more valuable. My time is like much more valuable. I could spend that time playing something I know I'm going to enjoy more. I do, however, try to make some informed decisions about playing games I'm buying. Like I will check reviews. I'll check some gameplay footage of a source I know is only going to show like, I don't know, like the first 10 or 15 minutes of gameplay or avoid story, that kind of stuff. And I at least get the credits rolling on like the majority of my games now, even if it takes like several months. So like, yeah, it took me 3 or 4 months for Astral Chain. Yeah. And I'll bounce between titles, but like I'm like way better on that than I was like 5 years ago or so, or 6 years ago. But yeah, what about you, Brandon? Same question from the guy who created the question.
Yeah. So I would say I'm typically a content completionist, not an achievement completionist. And let me clarify, because when I buy a game, I typically like to see everything that the game has to offer. And a lot of times that doesn't technically mean getting 100% of the achievements or trophies, because a lot of times achievements are like, kill this many people with this gun, do this many like grinding missions. Like that kind of stuff is not compelling to me. Some exceptions like Breath of the Wild, I actually did everything. But that was an excuse to just get lost in that world. But most games that have those really like annoying achievements that I'm not enjoying, I just don't do them. But I absolutely love doing side quests, doing missions, like games that actually have different areas that you can go off and actually enjoy meaningful content. I am all about that, and I try to complete every side quest I possibly can before I beat RPGs. In terms of, I also think, the other thing I'll say, I'd like to think I am very informed before I purchase a game. I will rarely pre-order games. I am very focused on previews, pre-release buzz from actual journalists that I trust their opinion. I am very focused on the actual reviews, OpenCritic, Metacritic of games. So I rarely take a chance on like games that I don't think I would like. So I'd say for the past like 3 or 4 years, there haven't been a game that I've spent money on. This is a good distinction, that I've spent money on that I haven't enjoyed. There are some games that I've like gotten for free from like Steam, like offered them for free, or like I took them from somebody else's like Steam library. So an example that really comes to mind, I don't know if I've brought it up on the podcast, was Dragon Age Origins. I think I got it for free, or like took it from somebody's library. And this is a game that actually got a lot of positive press.
I didn't like it either.
Yeah, I got to a certain part of the game where it was like you're in a wizard's tower in like a dream world, and I just was not enjoying anything. And I was like, honestly, like story's not hooking me. Gameplay, I know it's like more slow, methodical. Not typically the type of games that I like to play, but I was just not having fun, right? And at least in that instance, I didn't spend any money on it, so I didn't have that cost, fallacy. And it's interesting. I'm trying to think. I'm really. And I don't know if it is that fallacy where, like, games that I'm, like, I end up being like, oh, it was an okay game. Most games I play nowadays, I'd like to think I, like, really enjoy, which is a good sign for, like, titles I pick up. The worst, experience I have, the one I can think of, so this is an interesting one. Speaking of Kickstarted games, I did kickstart Mighty Number 9, which I do regret, and I actually don't think I'll kickstart games, like, ever again, really, because this is a lesson I learned. And that actually was an instance where I knew it got bad reviews, but I already had a copy of it. So I did beat that game end to end, which was about 6 hours. I think if that game was any longer than it was, I wouldn't have beaten it. I think I just like wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt. Another Kickstarter game that I played, and these are probably the 2 games in the past like 3 years that I can think of that I didn't absolutely love that I played, that I paid money for. This Kickstarter game was Yooka-Laylee. And Yooka-Laylee, I enjoyed it, but again, it wasn't something I would give it maybe like a 6 or a 7 on a scale of 1 to 10. It was definitely something that I don't think I would have bought, having seen the previews and post reviews and things like that. So I think I've learned my lesson in terms of, being informed before I actually spend money on a product, because besides those Kickstarter games, every game I've bought, for the past few years, high reviews, I know what kind of games I like, I ended up enjoying it, which was, I think, a good sign. Now, the other part of that question, is there a certain number of gameplay hours I need to get out of a title? I'm with you, Jake. I actually don't really... I think a game can have artistic merit and well justify its price tag. An example I've brought on the show, Sayonara Wild Hearts, right? That is a game that takes like an hour or 2 to beat. And so if you look at like a price-cost comparison, it's not... you're not going to get the same number of hours out of that versus like a Witcher 3 or a Skyrim or a long RPG, right? But I would argue that game in 1 to 2 hours, 3 hours, however long that game is a very unique experience. And for me, the $10 or $15, whatever it was, is completely justified, because I am all about new novel experiences. And something that is unlike anything else I've played is well worth the money. Another example, Edith Finch. Amazing game, I absolutely love. And that's another very short game, walking simulator, but it's something that is so unique to me and so adds so much artistic merit to the game, the video game medium, that I'm well justified the dollars I spent purchasing it.
What about you, John? Same question.
So, as is tradition with the War Cry Gaming Podcast, I think our actual war cry is, I'm agreeing with both of you.
Damn. Damn.
Well, kind of.
I feel we debate more in other topics, at least recently.
Yeah. So, I mean, I will say, there's not much for me to add to this conversation more than, I agree that your quality of time is more valuable than your quantity of time, especially as adults. I mean,
time's valuable, man.
As a dad, and Jake, you're gonna realize this too. As a dad,
I think I do now, man.
Your time's important.
My 40 minutes last night of sleep was very important. I really appreciated that 40 minutes.
So, I mean, let's just face reality, and we're not kids anymore. We don't have hours upon hours to throw into a game. But that's not to say that a game is good just because it's long. I mean, you can have a really terrible time with the long game too. I think, for me, from my own personal perspective, the hours that I put into the game are a reflection, really, of how much I truly enjoyed the game, despite how much I wanted to enjoy the game. So a good answer to this is Sekiro. I really enjoy the gameplay of Sekiro. I love it to death. It's fun, but I just have only a handful of hours into that game, and it's a From Software game, so there's frustrations about, of course. But then you contrast that with Bloodborne, which is another From Software game that I put way more hours into. So, I mean, as much as I like Sekiro, there's something, I guess, on a deeper level that speaks to how many hours I put into that game. Maybe it's just I just didn't enjoy it that much.
So are you gonna go back to Sekiro though, or you're okay moving on after only a few hours?
So on a personal level, I don't feel comfortable just moving on to a game that I haven't finished. And so one of the questions was, what do you define finishing the game?
Right. Yeah.
For me, it's just for a game like Sekiro or anything that's heavily story-based, I think it's just completing the story.
Getting credits?
Story. Yeah, just getting to the end credits. But
what about optional bosses Sekiro has a good number of optional bosses.
Right, so you can just I'll just come back to that later. So like one of the things was like Breath of the Wild, or not Final Fantasy, just any of the main numbered Final Fantasies. I'll completely like go through the entire main story, and then later on I'll do all the subplots later.
But when you say later on, are you coming back like the next day, or like weeks later, months later?
It depends. I mean, I can't say for sure. But sometimes it will come back the next day.
Yeah.
But the one game that I'm not doing this with, and it's kind of weird, is that I'm not doing this with Death Stranding.
Yeah.
You keep playing that.
Death Stranding I just clicked over 100 hours this morning. So, it's weird because like I guess I don't want it to end.
Yeah, right. Oh, that's the Breath of the Wild thing.
So like, like I like I said, my thing is the end credits is like the finish of the game for me. So I feel like after I finish the main story, because the story, as weird as it is so intriguing to me, as soon as I finish this game, like it's sad, but I feel like I'm just gonna put it down forever.
Well, I guess that's my next question, right? Like, in your mind, when you finish a game, is it kind of like locked away in an attic forever and you never touch it? Or are you the kind of person, that's all I was trying to ask about, like, do you come back to it like a month or two later and it's like, oh, I'm not really finished with this game?
Oh, well, yeah, I'm more of the kind, I guess I understand your question now. Yeah. I'm more of the kind, I guess, that just puts it away in the vault, so to speak.
Yeah, like it's done. Like you won't pick it up. You probably won't go back for like additional side quests or things like a couple years.
Right, because I have like a billion other games in my backlog anyway. So
yeah,
I'm the same. Like if I'm playing through a game, I'm at least going through like the main story. If I put that game down, there's a low chance of coming back for whatever reason. I just don't play much DLC. Like very rarely. I do sometimes on some games, but or some optional stuff, like say Lacrimosa of Dana, like East 8. I remember completing that game. I did 100% of that. I did every side quest, every optional thing you could do. Handed that damn shoe bill thing every bit of food. I think you feed him different fishes from the world. I gave him everything. He flew away. I did everything. And then there's a true ending to the game that you can get if you do a certain amount of things. You don't have to do everything like I did, but you have to do like most of everything. And then it opens up a optional dungeon. And that's all it is to that game. And if you, like Brandon says, you want more story content from that game, you will want to do that. So stuff like that, if I'm like super immersed in the game, like but it's not mandatory. Like just because I bought the deluxe edition of Spider-Man 4 on sale, or Spider-Man for the PS4 on sale, and it came with all the DLC, like okay, like if I had really, really good time with the campaign and I'm like done, I don't feel obliged to do that DLC. Like if I want to, maybe I'll come back to it, but more than likely, based on my track history, I won't. Just like, oh, it's a really good game, and I probably would like that DLC, but man,
you don't come back to it. Yeah. So it's interesting. One thing I just thought of that I didn't mention, and this kind of goes, maybe this is, I guess, in contrast to what you guys are saying. So Jake knows this. One thing that I do, and I've done for the past few years, I actually have a running log of games on my backlog, games I want to play. And what's interesting about that backlog is there's titles on there that I want to come back to for the bonus content. So I'll give you 3 examples. I am very happy I did this. What I did with both Super Mario Galaxy games, if you're familiar with how those games finish, you beat Super Mario Galaxy 1, and then you can play the entire campaign again with Luigi. It's plays a little bit different, and if you beat all the stars again with Luigi, you do an extra final mission with it's kind of like a thank you to the player. And you can only do it once you beat it with all of Luigi. So I 100%ed it with Mario, and then I put it on this backlog, and I was like, I don't really feel like playing the entire game again right now, but I definitely want to come back and make sure I experience this secret level. And so that game was on my backlog for a year or two, right? And I came back to it and played the entire thing again with Luigi. Same thing with Super Mario Galaxy 2. The way and that game actually has a very different approach to the post-game content, where you beat all of Super Mario Galaxy 100%, but as soon as you beat the final boss, then there are these green stars where you have to go and they're very well hidden throughout the original worlds, you go back to every single level and you have to find these hidden green stars. And same kind of thing, I was like, I'd already beaten Super Mario Galaxy 2. I don't really want to go back and play all of these levels again. Put it on the backlog, came back a year or two later, and to me it's really, really fun because I'm experiencing new content, but then also replaying a game that I knew I loved and love the mechanics. So you're revisiting something, but also experiencing something new. And the one that I'll say that is on there, if Jake, you've seen my backlog recently, I have Fire Emblem Three Houses, The Other Houses. So what I'm probably going to do, I'm so happy I beat the Fire Emblem campaign with Edelgard, but I really want to experience the other stories. But like playing those campaigns back to back, there is a lot of overlap. It would be somewhat repetitive. So what I'll likely do, I'll play a couple other games. I might come back to it in 6-8 months, play another story, maybe wait another 6 to 8 months. And to me, that's really fun for me because I'm coming back to something I love. And I don't consider Fire Emblem Three Houses finished from my perspective. I've played 1 out of 3, technically 4 branches of that story, and each story is very unique. So in my perspective, it's on a shelf, but I can't wait to take it down in 6 to 8 months to experience the game I know I love.
Nice. All right, guys. Well, that pretty much does it for the Work Hard Games podcast number 11. If you guys are new here, consider subscribing. Continue listening to all our content. I'm going to put something in the description below. I've been doing it for the most recent videos. It's the Fantasy Critic League. If you guys want to follow along, just to see how we're doing. I haven't added anything to the list yet. Yeah, we're still early. We haven't seen a Nintendo Direct yet this year. We haven't seen
I'm ready.
February.
I'm ready to put some bids in.
Yeah, February 15th, right? PlayStation 5. That's the official unveiling of whatever it is they're going to be bringing.
And then there might be some bids is all I got to say.
Oh, boy.
But yeah, thank you guys for listening, and take care. We'll see you.
Later.